So we're moving on now, and the year's pushing on quite quickly. Things are going into autumn, and I have what I call my mini weekend projects, although over the last week I've been building them anyway. I sort of build them every night, so when I get back home I dive straight into the garden and carry on. So over the last week, really, I've managed to get 2 new projects underway, which is quite exciting. I've yet to build the telegraph pole pergola walk. I know I keep saying I'm going to do it, but I will get there. I still haven't secured the actual telegraph poles themselves yet. So in between, I tend to look at other things and see what I can sort of build in between. And this week, I've managed to do this. Now, this area has always bugged me, and I often mention on film that I'm not happy with the border, with that border at the back. And it did run up to here, to these telegraph poles here, as you can see. Here, you've probably noticed it's all changed. So the drinker behind it, which is the donkey drinker, was in a donkey field. It used to sit just here. And I was sat here the other day, and it occurred to me that the problem was the seating area simply isn't big enough to suit what I've got going on behind it. And that was just a moment of inspiration, really, just being sat in this area here. And I assessed the problem and decided that the problem was the border was really not working with the seating area rather than the other way round. Now, I could have just played about with the planting scheme for forever and a day, and I probably would have done that had I not had that flash of inspiration. But now I'm so happy with this area. It's so nice. It's 99.9% finished, and that's simply because the planting probably does need a little bit of a jig around, but most of it's looking pretty good. So what I did was I took out quite a rise here. So the border, I took out about maybe foot and a half of soil in this area. And that was a task, doing that every night, digging it out and then stoning it up. So this stone here that you can see here, it's what they call MOT. And that stands for Ministry of Transport. And that's the stone that they use on roadways. That's why they call it that. And it compacts beautifully. In this case, I didn't bother compacting it because it's such a small area. I didn't feel it needed to be compacted. Now, the one thing I haven't got right in this area just yet is the gravel, because this gravel here is a larger gravel. And this one is what we call pea gravel. It's just smaller. And I had it already at the back, and I thought, well, I'll just use that for now. And then when I do get some more large gravel, which I will be doing in the future, because I have other projects that are going to require it, then I shall top it off with that as well. But for now, that's fine. I needed to save a bit of money, and that was the way to do it. So this donkey drinker, it looks really nice now. And there was a lot of water boatmen in there that I had to rescue once I poured it out. Once I poured the water out, and we threw them back in. But a lot of them, in fact, there's 2 on the top now we can see. See if we can get closer before they move. There you go, there's 2 water boatmen there. There they go, they've gone. And there's quite a lot in here. And I had to push them back in, quite a few of them. And I'm sure there's a few that didn't make it. But a lot of this water that I did take out went down to the dip pools. There's Hamish making his usual appearance. And the pump there is not the pump from next to the house. This is another pump that I actually bought off the internet. And it is as old as my other pump, which I know to be original because I know which house it came from. And this was on the internet for 20 quid. And the lady who sold me it said she could have sold it 20 times over. But I saw it as soon as it came online and bought it immediately and popped over that afternoon because I knew its value was more than 20 quid. And I can't be buyer and seller. So I've painted it in this black colour. And behind it, we've got this oak floorboard, or what would have been a floorboard, to back it. And I've just simply screwed it onto it, as you can see there. And it looks wonderful. And then we just had to play around. Now originally those two telegraph poles, those little stubby ones at the back there, were here. They went across these, and you won't remember this because you'd have to look back on my videos, and they went straight across over to that one there. See if we can get a better position for you. Yeah, so originally they came across here, and I thought, no, we'll move those across to the back. Firstly, to secure the soil, to stop it coming forward, because it is a lot higher that side, and secondly, to allow you another way into this section and to make it look nice. And generally that's why we do things. We're always trying to improve things, and I'm always trying to improve things to make them look better. And now I'm ever so pleased with this. It really does look nice. And I don't like to blow my own trumpet, but in this case I'm going to. And I think that looks wonderful. So that's a little mini project that's easy to do. And I could have definitely done it in a weekend. That's why I call me weekend mini projects. It looks good from here as well. And it just looks good overall. So the planting I'm quite happy with. And it's looking pretty good. Looking pretty good. Some of the plants in there are new. That Melianthus on the left there, that's new in, and that's growing already. It's doing well. I suspect it's going to get a bit of knocking back through the winter, but hopefully that should pick up and come back again. Shouldn't be a problem for it. So that's one of the projects that I've done, and it just looks so much better. And once we've finished, I'm probably going to get a couple more chairs to put in there, obviously, and that will be a more comforting place to sit. Not that it wasn't already. It always looks good at night, this, because it's got some fairy lights attached to that structure there, that pergola. That always look good at night. So yeah, easily achievable, easy to do, take your time. So I'll sit them around, and if I think it's not working, I will remove them. This was actually the same for over a year. And I was quite happy with the seating area in general, but I was never happy with the border behind it. It was always niggling at me. Always niggled me. And I know the garden is about plants, but it's also about the structures that you put within it. And if you get them right, it can just enhance it so much. So I'd already set my mind on another project that I was going to undertake through the winter. But seems I dug out the soil here, it meant that I had quite a few barrelfuls of soil that needed putting somewhere else. So I thought, well, let's get on with the second project, because that's what I need. I need plenty of soil. So we'll go there now. And down there you can see something seems to have changed. And yes, it has. We've created this area. So with the spoil from the last project, I've done this. And this has always been a problem for me, because it runs down to the ponds down there, the dip pools. The garden has never been level, and I've mentioned this several times as I've gone along building this garden, that this area you don't realise how much of a fall we've got here. So I've set about putting this in. Now, at the moment, it's not 100% finished. You can see to the left there. That needs filling in, which we will do. And then if you look at the front there, the same needs to happen there. So that needs sorting out, and it will be sorted out over time. But overall, it's looking good. So I've used some modern day railway sleepers, as you can see there, and then I've treated them with creosote. They need treating because they're not treated enough. They are pressure treated, but it's not enough to keep them going for a long period of time. So I always treat them. So I don't really want to have this as grass, but it does need some sort of a hard footing underneath. We need some sort of a sub base. So my initial thoughts, and this is probably where it's going to go anyway, is it's going to be hardcore again. The MOT that we used up on the other area will go on top of that, and then it will be covered in gravel. The path that you see behind it over time is going to be removed. That will be still a path, but it'll probably end up being again a gravel path. So I know there's a lot of gravel around this garden, but it's way better to have gravel than it is to have grass. Grass is just a monoculture. It has nothing to offer me. I'm not keen on it. You've got to cut it all the time. I will have little areas of grass that I will have to keep cutting because it's impossible to change them. But this can be changed. And although it would look great with grass, it's just such a nightmare when you're mowing all the time. So that'll end up gravel. I really like that step down as well, which takes you down to the ponds. Now I've got to mess about with the gravel. It's not correct yet. I've got to rake it back because while I was working on that, you can see I've exposed the plastic and I need to pull that back. So as you can see, it's quite a rise still, and that's quite a drop. And if we go back here, we might get a better idea of how far down that goes. So there you go. So it drops away to the left. And I deliberately kept open where you walk down to the ponds because I thought that would be a good idea anyway for the wildlife. So if their jugs are coming and going and things are walking up to that, then they can walk into this section and pretty much be like it was before. But it will still have that nice little fall down to the ponds or the pool so that it won't cause any problems of drowning, which often happens in ponds with small birds and jugs that can't get out. That's never going to happen here. I am going to have a little bit of a jiggle about in that corner. So you see where the toad is? That toad there. That toad down there is probably going to be messed about with. There's a grass there, and that grass is supposedly Calamagrostis kaige's giant. I can't say it is and I can't say it isn't. It looks more like Steve to me, but I got it from a very good source, from a modern day plant hunter, and that's what it's described as. So we will wait and see exactly what there is. I've had it a few years now, and to be honest, it's not overly impressive. It just needs to get going a bit more in a better area, and I need to leave it alone, which I don't do. But because I've changed all these bits here, I need to make that corner bit a little bit more nicer. So that corner there, I need to get another grass into there, to be honest. And to be honest, the one on the left there is probably the one that's going to go in it. You can only just make it out there, but a little miscanthus would look better. So we'll change that. But here, I think I waffled on a little bit. Don't think I really explained what I was going to do here. But because that is too high a step, so when you walk off that top area, you step down a step, it's still too high. If you base it on the steps behind it, you see the steps behind it are quite shallow, quite nice to walk down. Whereas this here would be a bit of a drop, and especially for the more elderly that I have visiting the garden, then it would be a bit difficult. So what I intend to do, and what I've got, is more soil, and I'm going to build that front up a bit more and graduate it back to here, because this still drops down. Although it's not obvious on camera, this drops all the way down and all the way down there. That is going downhill. So we need to address that problem, and I will. But for now, it is looking really good. I'm so happy with this little area. And again, this is a weekend project. This was a weekend project. I did it yesterday, which was Saturday. And it doesn't spoil the look of the pond at all. In fact, if anything, it enhances it. It brings your attention to it, which it is doing there. And I quite like it. In fact, I love it. Now, the plastic you can see there, that blue plastic, they're old compost bags. And what I've done is I've put them all the way around there. I'll put pictures up so you can see what I did, but I put them all the way around there, and that helps to stop the wood rotting as well. So although it's being treated, that should help stop the rot. And in my time, that's not likely to rot anyway. These are quite chunky bits of wood and reasonable in price. They're not that expensive. I know I spend a lot of money on the garden, but they're not that expensive. So there you go. There you go. Another project undertaken. So that's levelled out a problem that's bugged me since the day I got here. And although I do like to see little rises and falls in garden, this garden still has lots of those. But there are areas where people walk where we needed to flatten it out, and this being one of them. And it has now been done. I think that looks great. And that's done, finished, and on to the next project. What that is, I don't know. Probably finishing this first before we move on. And today's quite warm, but predicting rain, so probably won't get round to this today to finish it, even though it's Sunday and it will be a good day to get on with it. So I shall stop the waffling, and I shall talk to you on the next one. Ta-da!